everybody, Angela here from Cosy Cwtch Crochet, and in this video I'm going to show you how to get a nice straight seam when you're working in the round. Now very often you'll find that your seam will slope off, just as you can see on this hat here. But I'm going to show you how you can get a nice straight seam when you're working in the round. Now the secret to this is the stitch that you work into first on each round. You've got a stitch just to the left of your loop and you've got one directly below. And the secret is to work alternately into these two stitches at the beginnings of your rows. So on this round I'm going to start in the stitch that is next to the loop, and I've worked a stacked double crochet, that's a UK stacked double crochet, into the next stitch, and then I'm just going to work UK treble stitches all the way around till I'm nearly at the end. Now, when we get to the end, it's always important to count your stitches. I'm working with 60 on this hat. And that is 59. And I'm going to work my last stitch into this stitch here. That's my 60th stitch. And then because I've marked my first stacked double crochet with a stitch marker, I slip stitch into my first stitch. That's my first row round done. Now on my next round I'm going to work my stacked double crochet into the same stitch as the loop, the one directly below it. And I'm going to mark this stitch with a stitch marker. It's always good practice to, when you're working in the round, to mark your first stitch with a stitch marker. And then I'm going to work a UK treble in my stitches going around. When I get to the end, I'm going to count to make sure that my stitch count is correct. That's 59, and I'm going to work my last stitch into this stitch here. And that is 60. And then I'm going to slip stitch into the stitch that was marked by my stitch marker. So by working alternately into those two stitches, you get a nice straight seam. Now this is how I record my rows so that I don't get confused. I use a left pointing arrow for the next stitch and a downward pointing arrow to work into the stitch below. Or you can just remember your odds and your evens. And as you can see, by working into these stitches, you get an almost invisible straight seam.